Now, most everybody who's at the conference is obviously in extreme learning mode over the next few days, and they're going to go back home and start obviously working on their sites to improve it. What single nugget of advice can you give to basically anybody that are going back and saying, okay, I'm going to really do something to improve my site, whether that means not doing anything, I don't know. But you know, if you had to just sort of, in a nutshell, what's the best advice you can give to people who are really trying to improve their site?
If I could only give one nugget to stay with you, it would probably be to try out Google's Webmaster Console, because it's very good now and it's only going to get better. And it's kind of a one-stop shop to show you 404 errors and other crawl errors. If your site is not loading fast enough, you can see the latency of Googlebot, so we'll actually give you a little spiky graph that says, yeah, your site takes 4 seconds to load, which won't affect your ranking in Google, but you might want to know that, because if your site takes 4 seconds to load, you might want to fix that up so that users are happier. There's a lot of information on backlinks now, and we'll even show you some spam penalties. So if we think that you're a pretty legitimate business, but we found something like hidden text, we may tech out your site, but we'll also tell you about that, and we'll give you a chance to apply for re-inclusion. So it's a wonderful one-stop shop. Is Vanessa in the audience? I'm kind of curious. Woohoo! Hey, Vanessa! Yay! So Vanessa will also be doing successful site architecture. She is a fantastic. If I could have, heard the applause, I would do that. In fact, yeah. Can you switch over to the computer screen for us? Thanks. Okay. Oh, no. Well, we'll just tell people. Vanessa's about to do a post, so you guys get to find out before anybody else. And the post will say a couple things. First, Webmaster Console is coming out of beta. Yay! So, you want to show the console now? Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll show the blog. This is the Google Webmaster blog. Vanessa and a ton of other people. I posted on here a little bit. Adam Lasnik post. We've even had some people from the Dublin office post. For example, they did a write-up of Search Engine Strategies Paris and talked about link exchanges a little bit. And so we're looking at ways to increase the amount of information we can give out in other languages, which I think is fantastic. So the Google Webmaster blog is a great resource. But the Webmaster Console first is coming out of beta, which is always a nice step within Google. It's like a chance to celebrate. And the Google Webmaster blog is going to turn on comments. So people who want to, say, oh, I think this is a bug, or I think this is interesting, or good job about this particular change, this will be one of the very first blogs at Google to turn on comments, because, as you know, if anybody has gotten a chance to talk to Vanessa, she works very hard, her entire team works very hard on the Webmaster Console to try to improve communication. So turning on comments is just another step along that way.
Are we done with the?
Yeah, we can go back to
the video. It's interesting because I've noticed a definite trend over time. Google used to be very almost monolithic. We're not saying anything, to a definite, much more open. Is that something we're going to see continue to happen, you think, going forward?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the most important trends we have at Google, because we want to be as transparent as possible. Our first goal has to be our users and the relevance of the search results and the quality. So we have to remove spam as the first approximation. But after we get to that step, we want to give people as much help, as much advice, as much information as we can about how to make their search results better. So, when Google was a couple hundred people, the first thing you have to work on is the core search quality. As Google gets larger and we have more resources, we can do things like have a big bank of machines set aside so that everybody can download their backlinks and check out, what's going on with my backlinks. So it's absolutely the case that it's something we've wanted to do for a long time, but until you have the sort of people and the sort of resources who can spend all day long talking to webmasters, trying to figure out what to do next, it was a step that we weren't able to get to. And now we are, and I'm really glad about that, and I don't think we'll ever go back. And that's a good thing.
Speaking of machines and resources, back in the days too, when Google actually allowed me to go in and look at one of your data centers, the original computers that Larry and Sergey had used to build Google were still in operation. Is that still the case today, or is that another one of these classified?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% positive. It's kind of funny because you've got this armada of machines, and you can do a lot of things with them. And some machines are more intended for CPU, and some are intended more for storage. And so you can choose applications that complement each other well and balance each other well. So you can have multiple things running on one machine. And even a machine that is relatively old could still have some utility, some disk space, or you could give it over for a test bank where people can run machine translation or other experiments. So we try to use the machines for as long as possible productively. And then after that, I think, at some point you have to take the tax write-off or donate them to charity or something like that.
Okay, so peer into your crystal ball for a bit here. I think it was Craig Silverstein who kind of famously said that, in 50 years from now, we really want Google to be like HAL, a computer in 2001, except not killing people. Where do you see Google going, maybe even in shorter term, next 3 to 5 years? What kinds of interesting new services or opportunities for search marketers and so on?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. I'll give you my personal opinion. This is not, the official Google line or anything like that. But I think personalization will be very big. Localization in terms of countries and languages will be very big. I think having your data where if you want to, you can store it up at Google will be very big. So for example, I can have my Gmail, I can have my calendar, I can have my docs and spreadsheets, I can have all the blogs I read up in Google Reader. You could almost run like a little 5 or 10 person startup for free on Google services. And I think that's a really great thing. It's never been cheaper to start a business. You can sort of use Google Apps for your domain and you can have all of this information up there on the web where you can download it from anywhere and you can have a virtual organization. So I think those are 2 big trends. Another big trend will probably be searching over different types of data. So let's step into the time machine again. Go back 5 years. Google at that point was pretty much only web search. But if you look at Google's mission statement, it is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. No mention of search engines at all in there. It's a very ambitious goal, and yet it's a very important goal. So I think if you fast forward to, say, 2004, when Gmail rolled out on April Fool's Day, before that, we got to use it, before it rolled out, and I never realized how much search matters to email. Before that, I was putting things into folders, and I was trying to say, oh, this is an important email. I'll save it off as a file and put it in a special directory or something like that. And you don't even have to think about that with Gmail. Instead, you say to yourself, oh yeah, I don't even have to worry about it because I know I'll be able to find it later. And I found an email from 2000 where people were talking about who was going to be the big search engine. Was it going to be Lycos? Was it going to be Google? Was it going to be fast? All this sort of stuff. So people don't realize how much it helps to search over, say, email. And then there's Google image search. And then there's Google video search or YouTube. And then there's Google code search. And if you go forward year after year after year and look backward a year, you always say to yourself, there weren't that many great tools to be able to search for code for quicksort or to be able to search Google Desktop, which is one of my favorite tools. Now, if you enable Google Desktop and install it, everywhere you surf is stored as an index on your local machine. It doesn't go up to Google, so there's no privacy concern whatsoever. It's all just on your machine. But I have a safety net. I can say, oh, I saw this page. Chris was doing an article. I don't remember which site it was on. He was talking about social search, so I can do Chris Sherman social search. And I can find all the web pages I visited that Chris wrote that use the word social search. And it's a huge benefit. It's just like a safety net. And I think if you keep fast forwarding years and years and years, each time you'll be able to look backward a year or two and say, oh, there's a new type of data that we didn't know we could search, and now we can. Whether it's patents, or whether it's books, all this different information that will just become more accessible, and hopefully make people more productive and happy as a result.
So ubiquitous Google, essentially.
Well, you should always be able to have a choice. I always wanted to have competition, but should you want to be able to search, we want to be able to be there and help provide that search.
That cuts. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a half an hour break right now, and then the session's